The context for the governorship election in Ogun State keeps gaining momentum as bookmakers predict a tight race. Dapo Abiodun of the All Progressive Congress is the incumbent governor and is seeking a second term, while his fiercest rival, Oladipupo Adebutu of the People's Democratic Party, is not leaving anything to chance in the quest to replace Dapo Abiodun. Joining us to discuss Ogun politics and the forthcoming governorship election in the state is the spokesperson of the Ogun State APC Campaign Council, Remmy Hazzan. I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Newsday.
Thanks for having me.
And as it stands right now, a lot has been said as we prepare towards the 2023 general elections. But let's zoom into Ogun State and talk about the chances of the incumbent, Dapo Abiodun, retaining the seat. Does the APC fear that they might not be able to gather enough votes to return Dapo Abiodun back to the government house?
Naturally, thanks once again for having me. Naturally, every election cycle is a referendum on the incumbent. And it comes to that point where you just have to show your scorecard. And that's the premise upon which your confidence and eagerness to want to come back rest. And we have done enough to believe that the people of Ogun State will renew the mandate of His Excellency, Prince Dapo Abiodun, for a second term in every sector of the Ogun State economy.
Very good. Now, in other issues, the new Osun State Governor, Adeleke, commended the passage of the Electoral Act recently at a meeting with President Buhari, and of course noted how it impacted positively on his emergence as a state helmsman. So what are your thoughts on this narrative for Ogun State?
Now, for somebody from the opposition to make that kind of comment, commending the president for assenting to the current electoral act as presently being operated, shows that the evolution of INEC over time, from the time this particular Fourth Republic began, has actually come to the fore much more than ever. So that's a pass mark, really, for INEC. And it tells of some element of maturity in the political class, because for anyone to take that step, I just pray that if the opposition is on the losing side in any of the election, they will still be bold enough to still be able to commend INEC. Don't just commend INEC when you win. Do so whether you win or not, because the umpire is trying its best possible within the circumstance. So for me, that's a vote of confidence for INEC.
But how does it relate to Ogun State itself? How would you, project that?
It only means that whoever seeks to want to get victory in the coming election will have to do so on merit, not through any kind of backdoor. We have never been backdoor party in Ogun State. All of what has brought Prince Dapo Abiodun into office has been based on merit, ability to connect with the Ogun State electorate, ensuring that all of their yearnings in terms of good governance are met in every sector. Our government is premised on 5 development pillars. One is the I, which stands for infrastructure, and we have delivered in every sector. S is social investment and social infrastructure as well. It also combines security and other related matters. We haven't failed in that either. E is for education. A lot is going on that is revolutionizing that sector. Y is for youth engagement, youth development, culture, and tourism. A lot is also going on there. Agric, that's our flagship. With even the agro-cargo airport that will soon come on stream, you can just say that Ogun State is in for a better time. We've been in a good time thus far. We're in for a better time going forward.
All right. First of all, Mr. Oladipupo Adebutu has spoken that the APC and Dapo Abiodun are afraid of him as they actually get closer to the polls. And some will look at it and say that probably the incumbent talking about Dapo Abiodun might be swimming against the tide, also knowing that his predecessor has never taken a liking to him, and there are talks that he will go to nail and fight against ensuring that Dapo Abiodun returns. So let's talk about Ibuku Amosu and the influence he wields in Ogun State, and probably working against Dapo Abiodun and probably supporting maybe Adebutu or someone else to probably gain power in 2023.
Every scenario will just elicit a better strategy from us. We were without the former governor in the last election. God gave us victory. And as for the opposition, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, naturally, you should expect that the hallmark of opposition is fault-finding and incurable optimism, which of course spreads around the entire political class. So if they are optimistic, it's natural. But at the end of the day, who carries the day is the one that has won. And we believe that enough is on ground for us to have victory in this election. They too should not discourage themselves. So if they speak to say they're confident that they're going to win, it is the people who decide who wins at the end of the day. Now, in 2019, Prince Dapo Abiodun did not get the support of the then incumbent governor, and he still won. It only meant that the people decided who ultimately got it. These same people are still very much there, enjoying the benefit of good governance in every sphere of life in Ogun State. And they believe that the good work that this governor has done is enough for him to earn a re-election and continue, especially as it touches on those things that needed to be consolidated upon going forward.
And as you said, it's the people that matter at the end of the day. But let me ask you this question. Have you actually had any working relationship with the opposition in trying to at least reach some kind of a consensus regarding what is best for the people at that point in time? Yes, it's all about criticism every now and then, but have you tried to pull them in, or they could offer suggestions as well going forward?
Now, in opening the door of inclusivity, which the governor did at the early stage of his administration, quite a number of people from the opposition parties have joined us in the party. But those who have reasons to be ambitious, wanting to also take power, will never see any reason why they should take that olive branch as anything that should be considered. So you can understand if not everyone is willing to sit with us and, judge all in the sense that benefits the people of Ogun State to provide good governance. Those who are ambitious will never see any reason why they should join you. Those who have seen reason are with us already. And we believe with all of this support that we have garnered, going forward, the confidence can never be higher.
All right, let's talk about the fact that PDP has laid some grave allegations against the Dapo Abiodun-led government, talking about mismanagement of funds, talking about all that happened with the Moshood Abiola Polytechnic and the fact that some staffs had not been paid salaries. There are talks about multi-contribution deductions and just gross malfeasance. Talk to us about this.
Now, you don't allege without bringing proofs, especially when it borders on malfeasance. You don't just pay lip service. Don't shape narratives that seeks to bring the other person down if you cannot substantiate those things that you're bringing forward. The specifics as it touches on the Moshood Abiola Polytechnic, government, the way it runs, there are agencies of government that have their own autonomy, as it were. They are creations of law. And the law that creates them allow them to generate their own revenue and also spend it as it is also permitted within legal framework, especially with appropriation that is approved. Now, Moshood Abiola Polytechnic has a peculiar challenge, and that is the fact that the last administration relocated that institution to another place, and facilities over there were just not sufficient for a takeoff. This administration returned the institution to its original location so that it will not lose most of its accreditation with the National Board for Technical Education. Now, in trying to recommence academic programs in the new location, one of the biggest challenges that they had was that COVID that came in 2020 reduced their intake drastically. And it is in the intake that they also can latch on revenue drive for the school. Now, there were interventions by government, and at that point when those interventions came, of course, some bit of fresh of breath air came over the institution. However, normally we give to all our institutions what we call subvention, which is government's seed of support to those institutions, just so that they will feel that, okay, there is still a participation from government besides the revenue that they earn. Now, at some point, that institution needed major funds that couldn't come from any other source than government. But of course, it was spelled out. You have subvention that we give to you. If we are going to give you this much, your subvention will be used as repayment. This is not a grant. This is more like an interest-free facility. And when they took that, it wasn't long that even the crisis that they wanted to address with the fund didn't particularly get solved. Coming back to government, they didn't. And of course, when their obligation to their staff were not met, the staff had to react. It is a reaction of the staff that we are seeing, not even the complaint of the management to the institution. And that's one of the things that I addressed on air yesterday on another media outlet, that the institution needs to formally inform the administration that certain challenges confront them so that we can judge all together. They are not completely an orphan as they are seeing themselves now. And that couldn't have been a basis to allege financial malfeasance. And that's why I said the onus is on who alleges to prove.
But they've also mentioned pensioners and some workers. Just general remuneration has been poor under his administration.
Now, when each specific comes, we have answers. The issue of pensioners, no pension has ever been delayed in Ogun State. The cry has been review the rate upward so that it can enhance the purchasing power of retirees. That is on one side. Of course, government is going to do that based on availability of funds. But what is in the books is being paid, and on time too. But of course, for the retirees, which is their gratuity, we met a backlog. The last time gratuity was paid by Ogun State government was 2011. And this government didn't come in until 2019. However, our government took a step to approach the Pensions Commission to help us defray this backlog. But they gave us a condition that we must bring our pension law up to the same level with the reviewed federal pension law. And of course, we did what we needed to do by approaching the House. The labor leaders within the workforce said they were not in tune with that they didn't see anything that suggests that we will keep our own side of the bargain because previous administrations failed them. It even led to a strike. So we had to drop that option. If they had agreed to that, by now everybody will have been paid up to date. Now, when that was dropped, the only other option is to now begin to do instrumental payment. We began with an amount that was so low. Now we are paying 600 million naira per quarter to diffuse the backlog. We have moved from 2011 to 2014 now. And once our revenue drive increases, we are sure that we will also pace up on the rate at which we pay. But we haven't left them completely unattended to. So there is no magic there. It is going to be based on fund availability. And this government is not closing its eyes.
All right. Still a critique on your government. The opposition says your candidate, the governor, embarked on horrid infrastructural repairs only immediately after the PDP won the elections in Osun State. They say it's all panic-induced and the infrastructure may not last beyond the elections. So how do you react to that?
Talk is cheap, and narratives are shaped the way it favors those who shape it. The truth of the matter is that we had a major challenge in 2020 with the COVID thing, and that's a global phenomenon. Now, when things began to improve late 2021 and 2022, of course, most of the projects that were ongoing, because Ogun State is the industrial hub of this nation, almost all the industries closed down because of lockdown. And you wouldn't expect an industry that is not operating to pay tax. When they resume activities and we now began to earn revenue again, funds began to come into our coffers. Most of those projects that were slowed down or stopped were recommenced. How does that amount to panic? If they are seeing it as panic, that suits them in narrative, but we just believe that we have picked up from where we stopped.
All right, Mr. Remmy, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on Newsday and shedding more light on the governorship election that will be coming up in Ogun State.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure.